Hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. You know what I'm thinking? Toyota. Let's go places!
And now, some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Jeff's in New Bedford. What's up,
Stars
Jeff?
put butts in seats.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing, guys? You know who we drafted since Mac Jones has been in Patriot on the offensive side?
Yeah.
Trey Nixon, Demario Douglas, Keyshawn Booty, and Tyquan Thornton. Okay, that's the weapons.
What about
that
Ramondre
Bill
Stevenson?
Belichick, like the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals.
Yeah, he beat you with
And
Parker.
He's anticipating throws, all that, because he knows Tyreek Hill's going to be there.
Who's Patrick Mahomes' third down back?
Jerick McKinnon, he's pretty good.
He's got no
Oh, really?
team.
What's he got?
He's got
12
nobody
catches?
he
Oh,
can
he's
check
great
it down
last
to.
year in the
Does he
playoffs.
miss
Who's
the reads
who's
and
Joe
all that?
Burrow's
He
third
doesn't
down
have
back?
reason.
I-
Nobody can say he's
is his
broken and all
name
that.
Jeff?
But he didn't
Jeff?
look broken
All
out
this
there,
stuff
Mike.
about
But
Mac
that
is
just proves my point. Look at his rookie year.
he didn't produce. Look at it. Go back and look at it and show me the production.
I don't disagree with.
Listen, Paul.
I don't disagree with his point.
Your weak arguments about production.
No one can even talk except for you.
Jeff.
Jeff, listen.
Jeff.
I
Jeff.
want him to get traded, Paul. I don't care what you say.
No,
He
Jeff.
needs to get traded.
Jeff, that's fine.
Hold
Jeff.
on.
You talk, then Fred talks. You talk, and Fred talks. You can't just talk all the time.
Jeff.
No one can hear anything.
Jeff,
It's just you.
Oh, he hung
Oh,
What a
wow.
call.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
That was Patriots Unfiltered yesterday. No.
That pretty much summed up
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah, if you didn't hear it, you can go back and listen to the whole call.
Fred desperately trying to agree with
Yeah,
Jeff
Anyway.
to no avail.
But you know what? We're just getting ready for Washington.
That's all we're doing.
That's all we're doing today.
On to the
You know?
Commanders. That's what. Yeah,
We're just
Commanders.
getting ready for Washington. That was the refrain today from Bill Belichick. A lot of people wanted to talk about the trade deadline and personnel and all that stuff, but
With the general manager of the team,
Yeah.
they wanted to talk about that.
we're focused on Washington.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm not sure Washington's focused on playing football anymore. Yeah. They traded away. They're trading away key pieces yesterday, and apparently to play their young guys, which, according to Bill, he can understand because he thinks they're pretty good. But, you know, it is what it is. This looks like a game that the Patriots should win.
That comment stood out to me. It was like, oh, so when you feel like you don't really have anything going that season, you just kind of restock and play your young guys a lot. Like, is that what we're doing too, Bill? I don't know.
Yeah, but we're not doing that. I mean,
No,
we're
no.
doing it by default because guys are hurt.
Right.
But
We're
you
not.
know,
We're not talking
forced-
about personnel right now,
Forced to
Mike.
do it.
Yeah.
Oh, my apologize.
All right, if there's something to talk about, we'll talk about it. If there's nothing to talk about, we won't talk
So
about
Bill talked today, and then Mac Jones just got off the podium a little while ago. I got to say something about him. I know we people like to pile on Mac and all this stuff.
it.
And
They do? Did
you
you
know,
listen to that call?
you know, McEnroe and all this, but for everything that's going on with him and the stuff around him, you know, he puts on a good face for the most part at these press conferences. You know, like he doesn't come out, you know, dour and down. He's upbeat. I got to hand it to him.
He's got to be kind of used to it. Like, you know, I mean, it sounds a lot the same. I mean, even like his post-game press conferences kind of are all just sounding like the same
I know,
story,
but
you know, and
he does it with a smile on his face.
I think,
you know.
I think at this point, though, you kind of realize where you're at, and you go up there, you put on a happy face, you know that they're not going to grill you
I
too
know.
bad.
I'm trying to give him a little credit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think of everything we've given him credit for was, you know, handling things, you know, fairly well. I mean, I think that there's a couple of different avenues you can take to that. Some things he didn't handle so well last year.
Right.
But, you know, as far as just working hard and, you know, saying kind of the right things and all that, yeah, he's doing a good job.
I will say for this, give him this. he knows what he's doing wrong. Like he said every single week after games, we ask him questions, and now I have a cohort with me and Taylor, so we both come at him about the film, and we ask him questions about what are you seeing downfield on deep throws and the pre-snap stuff and RPOs and this and that, and he has all the right answers. He has all the right answers as to what he's doing wrong and how he could improve and where they're deficient and all these types of things. And I was saying to you guys before we hit record here, like he just can't fix them. Like it just seems like he knows what he needs to do, but maybe because it's physically he can't do it. He just can't do it.
Sounds like a coach.
Yeah, he just can't fix it. That's kind of how it comes across. Is like if this was like the offensive coordinator saying that the quarterback needs to do X, Y, and Z better, I'd be like, okay, yeah, like the guy's got the right mojo, and then but he's the one that has to go out there and execute it.
It's a good trade for a backup quarterback too. You know what's going on.
See what you did there.
Yeah. We should mention some NFL news that happened overnight
in the middle of the night in Vegas, the city that never sleeps. Apparently,
I'm not. I wouldn't have been surprised if it happened at the end of the season. I am surprised that right now the Raiders got rid of Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, by the way. But and
Mick Lombardi.
Yeah.
And Mick Lombardi.
Out as OC.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess
friend Bo Hardigree was promoted.
So
it sounds like the final nail in the coffin was starting Brian Hoyer in that game a couple weeks ago, and I guess they all wanted to go with Aiden O'Connell, and Josh wanted to go with Brian Hoyer, so they started Hoyer, and Hoyer played terribly, and
Hoyered.
That was kind of the end of that.
Yeah. So with 4 years left in his contract, he's a free man, raking in the money. Apparently,
that's what I mean. I'll let Paul say it, but I mean, take some time.
Yeah, really.
You don't need money.
Yeah, I mean, like I know immediate speculation is he'll come back, and I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, he's done it before. If I were him, and this is just me, my opinion, I would take the rest of this year and just decompress.
If I was
Spend
Bill
some time
O'Brien,
with your family,
I would be like, no, please no.
No, I agree. I don't think it's. We can talk about whether or not the Patriots should do it, and I would say no because of what you just said, but. If it's something that everybody's in agreement on, and Billy O'Brien, or maybe they, like the last time when he came back, Billy O'Brien was leaving. He was going to Penn State. They knew that.
Right.
So there's nobody's toes getting stepped on.
Exactly.
If they know that now, that Billy O's got another job lined up for next year, which I highly doubt they know that right now, then by all means, do it again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean,
to me, I think it's better for Josh. And I'm not saying never come back. I'm saying right now. Just sort of take the last half of the year off, decompress, spend some time with your family. Money's not a factor, and then figure out what your next move is going to be.
Especially after last year, like I would, if someone wanted to pitch like how it could work, or why to bring Josh in at this point to a 2-6 team, but I think last year we had so many voices in Mac's head, and I think that was part of the problem. And so you're talking about muddying the message maybe a little bit at this point, where, I mean, I think. Probably right now what you're thinking is let's continue to try to get Mac to pick up the Billy O offense and not let's bring in Josh and he's going to maybe have his take on it. And
right.
You keep looking
I think things are going to just be
Toyota.
Oh, you looking at me?
It's like keeps flickering.
Nobody else here.
But I'd be more interested in maybe discussing some of the assistant coaches. I mean, I know Evan was bringing up Carm Brasillo, who's the offensive line coach, who, if things, I don't know how things are going with Adrian Clem. We've seen the product on the field. Maybe there's some learning curve there too.
Did he get fired too?
No, he's still there.
but maybe he'd be out at the
end of the year.
Maybe at the end of the year.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a big Carm Brasillo guy. I thought their best line since Scar left was 21, which was his line. So I think that he's a good line coach, and I would definitely bring him back. And I hear fans that say that, they should move on from this system entirely, and like we should be looking to turn a page here and move into a different world of offense, maybe with a different
universe,
not keep on bringing back retreads, right? And just keep rehiring these guys. But I think that there's a difference between pointing out the fact that it's pretty obvious why they would bring Josh McDaniels back, and also I agree with that point that they need to adapt and modernize a little bit on offense. But at the same time, if, like Paul said, if Billy O's got a job at Michigan State next year lined up, then and Bill's still the coach here, it's going to be McDaniels. Like that's just a fact. Right. So,
yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of people that really know what the future of this team is. And
it ain't us.
Yeah, it's not us. And so all we're doing right now is spitballing, but I'm dying to find out what's going to happen at the end of this season.
I am too, and I hate it. I hate being in the position of having to root for the team to lose so that they can get a better draft pick. Like I think it sucks.
Well, you don't have to do that.
No, but you can't. And I'm not saying I'm not have to do that. I'm not saying I'm necessarily rooting for it.
I'm going to allow you not to have to do that.
Yeah, I'm giving you permission.
And I'm not, by the way.
I appreciate the permission.
I've decided I'm not.
And I'm not really, but it's just you can't help but feel that pull, and you can't help but feel right now, every game they win, you're like, great, and that's. I'm not rooting for them to lose in any sense. Like I can't get there ever. But I just hate having that hang over you that every win is going to have that like, well, say goodbye to Drake May now. Like each week they win. It sucks. I hate being in this position.
It's like didn't the Jets like win their last game?
The Zach Wilson year.
To
get to lose
lose Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like that would be a tough one. But that's way down the road.
I know.
Like
but it's building right now.
I can't get to that in November.
Yeah. Now that the trade deadline's over, there's a lot of, chatter on the various platforms from the experts that, they're upset with the Patriots because, if you're not going to sell anything, then sign them. If you're not going to sell Uche, if you're not going to sell Duggar, if you're not going to sell Onwenu, sign them.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
I think it's all individually case by case.
Yeah.
In my view, I would say that that's how I feel about Duggar. I kind of like Kyle Duggar. I think he could be one of your young guys that you could potentially have as part of your nucleus. Everybody says, well, who other than Christian Gonzalez did it? Well, I think Duggar could be one of those guys. He'd be a fifth-year guy next year. Why wouldn't you want to? Is 4 years, $40 million, something like that? Is that outrageous? I don't do the numbers.
No, I just think that the biggest thing to me is like at some point you have to build. You can't keep replacing. And I feel like this football team has gotten into a problem personnel-wise because it's constantly one guy in and one guy out.
It seems like they're always looking for the perfect player.
Yeah.
Like someone who's versatile, not high, crazy expensive, but can, be a foundational player because they did have those guys like the Teddy Bruschi's and things like that. But I don't know. You also had Tom Brady, and so now you don't. So now you need those other players that are going to carry this team. You can't rely on the quarterback.
I printed out a tweet from Zach Cox yesterday, which I just thought summed it up really well. Just a couple highlights. From 2014 to 2019, New England selected 19 players in rounds 1 through 3, and none of them signed a second contract with the team. 0. Let's do that again. 2014 to 2019, 19 players rounds 1 to 3. These are the guys that right now should be your core, your leaders.
Right.
0 of them.
So that's 6 years. 6 years of drafts.
Right. So my question would be there, is it just bad drafting or is it bad roster management, or in some cases both? Because I don't think that.
But there's a third element, Paul: drafting, roster management, but also coaching once they get here.
Development.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you're right. You're absolutely right. But my point is, like, if you've drafted a guy that you think can play, and you're considering giving him a second contract, then my guess is he developed to a point. So did they always? I wonder just how many guys out of those 3 rounds and 6 years of drafts are like Kyle Duggar. I think Kyle Duggar was a good draft pick. A second-round safety who is pretty athletic. I think he's very physical. I still think he struggles a little bit in the passing game, but, I think he's a pretty good player. My feeling is they don't have a lot of those. No. In those drafts. And that's the bigger problem is drafting, not retaining.
I think they cover that spectrum, Paul. I think it goes from they drafted guys who were good, like Chandler Jones, that they let go for whatever reason. It's just the second part to this, the second contracts of guys post-2013. Jake Bailey, who was, of course, cut 1 year after he signed. Joe Cardona, he's a long snapper. James White, now retired. Shaq Mason, traded. We're left with just Dietrich Wise and Jawan Bentley. So, really, for the last 10 years, those are the 2 guys that you have to show for all of those drafts.
Right. And it's hard because, like I said, it's case by case.
Yeah. I mean, just like looking at I'm not going to read all of them because there's obviously a bunch, but just off the top of my head or at a quick glance, I think really the only guy that you can go back to and be like, I guess there's 2 or 3. One of them is Trey Flowers was a 4th round pick, so that's past the cutoff, but he got a big deal from Detroit when Patricia went there, and that one I guess is a little bit complicated. Obviously Jimmy G, right? 2nd round pick in 2014, and then Joe Thuney. Those are I think are the 3 guys that were good players that you hit on in the draft that weren't retained past their first contract. But I just feel like we're always it's Kyle Duggar out, Marty Mapu in. It's Joe Thuney out. It's the next guy in. And instead, why don't we take Kyle Duggar and add to Kyle Duggar, right? Like why? And why does it have to stop there? Like I feel like we're I'm not as caught up in like these guys have to be your building blocks or your foundational pieces. Who's to say that Kyle Duggar can't just be Kyle Duggar and then your foundational piece is Christian Gonzalez, right? And I feel like they have to at some point. They need to latch on to some guys and start to build something instead of just constantly.
And I think it gets back to Mike's draft rant because Mike, I think you feel probably as passionately about the missed draft picks as any of us do.
Yeah,
and we're all in agreement on it. But I feel like Evan brings up a good point. So Kyle Duggar, again, we all kind of feel like, well, that's a good pick.
You don't have best pick in a while.
You don't have to retain him because, for whatever reason, they decided. Well, we have Kyle Duggar. We're going to go and sign Adrian Phillips and Jabril Peppers. And then even after we have all those guys, then we're going to get Mapu. Like, I think Mapu is a little bit of a different player than those 3, but the other 3 are very similar players. Now, I think Adrian Phillips is probably nearing the end. But he was a good, solid player for them. Like, no one would say, what would you wasting your time on Adrian Phillips for the last 3 years? Like, he was fine.
Yeah.
Right? But how different is he than Duggar and Peppers? And how many of those guys do you need?
Yeah.
So now they're going to probably, to Evan's point, they're probably going to let Duggar go, right? Well, we got Peppers. And then we drafted, like, maybe you wouldn't have to draft all of these guys at those positions if you just identified a guy that you like instead of that constant search, like Fred said, for that perfect guy. I feel like those 3 safeties are all very similar in their skill sets. Phillips, Peppers, and Duggar.
To finish the exercise, so let's go 20, 21, 22, 23. Who and those do you think they will give that second contract to?
Will?
Yeah, will.
I mean, it's a great question, Fred.
Out of the pending free agent class?
No, not just the pending free agent, but guys that they've recently drafted.
I mean,
I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of confidence in any of them.
I don't
that's kind of the point.
I know.
I don't.
Mac, I don't know. Barmore, I don't know.
I mean, obviously, you think, I know it's recent, but you think Gonzalez will get to a second contract. You hope, anyway. Maybe Barmore?
Maybe.
Would he get to a second contract?
But to me, yeah. But to them, I don't know.
It's what we think should, and then what they will do. Is another story.
But what happens is, I think, again, it's all case by case because you don't know what these guys are going to get.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like the exercise. Like
if Barmore becomes what I think he's going to become, I do not think he will get a second contract here.
Well, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Ramondre.
So like he's in a catch-22.
Almost no chance.
If he doesn't become that, then okay, don't give him a second contract. And if he does become that, they don't want to pay him. So like he can't win.
No, but like I could see them going to them going to him like
next year.
In the offseason, and he signs a Dietrich Wise extension.
Yeah.
I could see that happening with Barmore.
But like
now, if I were Barmore, I would wait.
Right. Yeah. But I would count that as good. If they could convince him to do an early extension, that's smart management. That's smart to do that.
It's a player you traded up for. You showed value.
You're telling the guy you can make more, some money now, or you can wait, but you can get your money in the bank now. Maybe not as much as if you wait another year or two, but you'll get your money now. And a lot of players opt for the money now. And, it's just a life decision that they make. But, let's keep going down the list. Tyquan Thornton. Please.
Nope.
No. Cole Strange.
Oh.
No.
I don't know if he's going to be starting in 3 weeks.
Right. I mean, you go down the
Jonathan
list. A lot
Allen's
of the
coming
guys
for
are
sure.
already gone.
The fifth-year option.
Yeah.
Right.
Cole Strange.
No. I'm being serious.
Yeah, he's a first-round pick.
Yeah. So the fifth-year option for him is that
North
refresh.
of $10 million, probably.
Okay, so I could see that, but that's not a second contract.
It's not. That doesn't count. But you got to get to your 5th year before you get to
we get to our 3rd year. Before
Right.
See, the 5th-year contract is a formula, so it's draft pick and it's position. So he's a guard. So max 5th-year option right now is projected to be $23 million in 2025 because he's a quarterback and he was a 15th overall pick.
Yeah, top half.
Right.
Yeah.
So Cole Strange's might be a little bit more reasonable.
Sure.
But that's why I was asked before I said completely.
But even
wrong. I
then,
wanted to make
it's
sure
a
I had it
decision
right.
to be made. He's going to be paid good money because he was a first-round pick, not quarterback money. But it's a decision to be made.
But that's not good free agency money.
No,
that's good 1 year salary
right.
money.
But you go down the list. Who are the guys since 2020 that possibly could make it to a second contract?
And that's why, looking at these numbers and then now looking what's become of the 2022 draft class, it's just that, I feel like that was kind of one of the final nails in the coffin, I feel like, missing on all those draft picks. I mean, you missed on Strange.
Because
you missed on Thornton,
Because at the time, a year ago, we thought, Stevenson.
Yeah.
But they don't like doing that with running backs.
No, I wouldn't do that with
And now he's shown
wear and tear.
That one I don't put on the team, though. I think most teams, they don't really want to do that.
There's just also, I think, something to be said for retaining guys because they're your guys, and you're trying to build a culture of, look, this guy has some warts in his game or his personality or something that don't make him prototypical Patriots, but these are our guys. We've put a lot of time into them already, and we want to continue with these guys despite their warts, and we want to send a message to our locker room that, when you play well, even if you mess up a couple times,
well, they do that with some guys.
I think that's part of
long
my
snappers
feeling.
and guards.
Well, I mean, I mean,
punters.
what's Dietrich Wise's deal, for example?
Nothing.
I mean,
but they keep him. They keep him around.
Player.
Him and Bentley. I mean, he's good. But I always felt like the second they drafted Keon White, I'm like, well, this feels like we could finally upgrade Dietrich Wise. I think he's a nice player. I think he's a complimentary player. But, when you look at that list, you say these are the guys that they chose to build around. This isn't like an elite player. This isn't, this was a guy that even when they gave him the extension had questions. And I think he's played better the last couple of years. He's rounded out his game. And I think he's, great police in the locker room for sure. But he loves Dietrich. But, he's not.
But, I just don't. What's the problem with retaining your good players while still seeking out great players? I feel like this team, when you're they just give up on you because you're not an elite player and they go searching for Fred's golden goose, where that guy should be tacked on to that. Kyle Duggar, Christian Barmore, Christian Gonzalez, Jawan Bentley, those guys should be here. And then when you add the draft picks that you bring in, or you add the free agent guys that you bring in after that, those guys are in addition to what you already have. And I just Duggar and we'll see about Barmore. He's had 3 really, really good games so far this year, and he had a great rookie year. I think I probably need to see a little bit more consistency for him from a long stretch of games to say let's give him some lucrative contract. But a guy like Kyle Duggar, I don't know why that's even a conversation. Unless he's not gonna get stupid money. I don't think he's gonna be making Derwin James, Minka Fitzpatrick type of safety money. So, and unless it gets stupid, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Well, I heard somebody on the radio saying today that Duggar's agent is the same agent as somebody else who's coming. Uche's agent.
Yeah.
They have the same agent. And the Patriots don't necessarily get along with this particular agent.
I thought it was Uche's that Andrew Callahan was mentioning.
Yeah, but I thought he said the two Patriots players that are coming up, and I thought he mentioned Duggar. But
they were talking about Duggar, and then I think they were talking about Uche. But you might be right; he might be the same, one and the same. But I did hear Andrew Callahan say that. He didn't mention the name, so I don't know who the players are.
Yeah,
that are involved.
I don't want to say it because I don't know if I'm right, but I don't know about that.
Okay. the other thing about this conversation is we're doing it at a disadvantage because we really don't know how it works down there.
Nobody knows how.
Yeah,
it works.
Robert Kraft has said.
Evidently, Bill doesn't either.
Robert
Kraft about Washington.
Robert Kraft has said he's never had any problem getting players. What he doesn't say is there a budget? So as long as you're within a budget, you don't have a problem. But does Bill have to work from that budget? And that dictates a lot of the decisions he makes. You know, I have a set amount of money I can spend, and that includes money in the future, you know, over cap and cash spending, and I have to make it work within that. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, and I think we can all reasonably assume that everybody has a budget.
Well, yeah, but I mean, other budgets.
We don't know what it is.
Yeah, like the whole cash spending. That's real money. That's the money that, you know.
And I do think that part of that, like, that was a big advantage of the weight because the cap was in the early part of the dynasty, like the 03, you know, era. The cap was constricting, and having Tom Brady not have to be, you know, blowing it out of the water. But as the cap, you know, it's a catch-22 for the owners because they make so much more money now because the revenues is so much higher. The cap has grown so big that you don't have those restrictions. Did you see some of these stories about, like, back to the Raiders thing? Like, Davante Adams was close to a deal with the Jets. Like, so the Jets are, like, acquiring a $60 million quarterback, and they had no qualms whatsoever about adding Davante Adams for another 30.
Yeah,
because the cap doesn't matter. You can just manipulate it any way you want to.
You can, but this is the bigger question: is
if you're willing to spend the money. I mean, yeah.
Like, so the Patriots, I would say, out of all the teams in the league, probably use the least amount of cap maneuvering gymnastics at this point. And my guess is, and this is something that I know people think I attack Bill all the time, but to Paul's point, this is how it probably used to be run.
Yes.
And now this is no longer how teams are doing it. So I get this, you know, a lot on Twitter, like, how does San Francisco, with their salary, trade for Chase Young and trade for Christian McCaffrey and make all these huge moves for high-priced players when they're already spending a ton on their roster?
And people will tell you it's because they're not paying for the quarterback, which is so simplistic.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not. They have the last pick of the draft is their quarterback, but they're paying quarterback money or quarterback-adjacent money to a lot of different guys.
Yeah, or it's like, you know, a couple years ago, what was it, last offseason when the Bills signed Von Miller.
Yeah.
The Bills have one of, like, the most cash spending wise, like, they are at near the top of the league, and then they were up against the cap, and then somehow they just signed Von Miller to this, like, $20 million a year deal. The Eagles are another team that just buy their way out of it. Like, they just buy their way out of anything to do with the cap. And that's how you trade for A.J. Brown and keep it going.
But just so people understand, when you say buy their way out of it, what does that mean?
So there's different ways to maneuver the cap. The easiest one is to create base salary into a signing bonus. But in order to create base salary into a signing bonus, you have to write a check to the player.
That's right.
Today.
Immediately.
That's right. It's real money.
It's real money. And so you have to hand them a check and say, here's the money for the rest of the season that we would have paid out to you in per game roster bonuses and base salary, but instead we're going to do it all in one lump sum because you are A.J. Brown and you're going to be worth it, so we're just going to give you the money. And teams will just do that, and it's kind, it never comes due. Like this notion that the bill comes due.
Well, it does come due, but you can always
it's in perpetuity.
But you can always keep refinancing.
Right.
You can always
right.
Like that. If you don't want to do the gymnastics, eventually it will come due. But
Correct.
There are mechanisms to just keep it going. The only thing that would kill you is if there's a pandemic, and all of a sudden the cap goes down. Now you're kind of screwed because now you have to make serious. But as long as the cap remains even going up a little bit, you can keep moving money to the future. But you're going to have to. You need a good accountant. You need someone who understands all the rules and can manipulate. You're going to have
need money.
You're going to have to restructure guys' contracts, because even though the cap is crap, you still have to stay under it in a fiscal year.
No, it exists.
Yeah,
but
it exists.
But it's just money.
But you can,
Evan just explained it perfectly.
But you can move that money to the future. Now, the other thing that people need to understand when we get to that writing the check, not all owners are equal. There are some owners that have that liquidity to just do that, and other owners that don't. And you think that all teams have the same amount of money. They don't. The Dallas Cowboys have more money than any other team. And I would say the Rams probably are there too because of their owner. He's dipping into his own pockets. He's not – when he does that extra stuff, that's not his normal budget. That's going above and beyond their normal budget.
What would you put the Raiders on that list?
Very low.
Yeah, I would say very low. And I think the Raiders –
do it.
Yeah, the Raiders have overseers. Mark Davis, he's not – I think he has help from the league when it comes to decisions on that team.
Well, I just think that they're willing to swallow dead money.
Yeah.
It just
look at what they're paying for two coaches right now.
I know.
How much of this stuff do you think, and I'm just putting this out there for discussion, the thing I read off about not really retaining your guys, do you think that all this cap stuff and money stuff feeds into that? Do you think that that's a factor, or do you think that it's more about
Well,
just
I do. And that's why I said before, we're at a disadvantage because we don't know
Fred's
how
right.
we don't know how the Patriots operate in terms of their budget, not just the cap,
No,
the
you're
budget.
Right.
Well, because Bill always says that we spend to the cap. But the issue is that everybody else is spending past the cap.
Right.
So nobody else spends to the cap anymore. Everybody else, the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, are in the top 3 of cash spending. They are way, way, way over the cap in terms of how much money they spend on the team in a year. But they're able to do it because they have these, nerds behind the scenes that just figure out how to move the money around and make it work. And I think in a lot of ways, like Paul, we were talking about this yesterday, if they give, I think we were talking about Chase Young. If they give Chase Young $20 million, are they then going to go give T. Higgins $20 million? And that's where you run into issues, is that if you're going to start paying a bunch of high-priced players at the top of your roster, you have to be willing to maneuver the cap. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to get those players.
Yeah, I mean, other than like your coach and quarterback, maybe the most important person on any team is the person who is your not your capologist, but your accountant, the person who understands all the rules and can get these future deals by the league, because the league has to approve every deal.
Yeah.
You submit the deal to the league. It goes into this thing called the Management Council. It's all online. Like every team has visibility into every other team's deal, and you can't bend the rules. You got to adhere to the rules. But understanding what those rules are and not being afraid to I'm not going to worry about 5 years from now. We're going to push it out. When we get to 5 years, we'll deal with it then.
Yeah. The one thing I slightly disagree with you on, Fred, is I don't think now it's all about future. I don't think the bill's going to eventually come due. I think what Evan explained is you do the opposite. If you just write the check and give them the money up front, it lessens the future problem. It allows you to spread the cap number out, but you've given them the money.
Oh, yeah. In those deals, you're right.
No, but I think that's a major mechanism that people create cap space
I just
with.
feel like people think that it's eventually, like at the beginning of Rocky, he's goes down to the docks to collect, right? Eventually the league is going to come and bring some bully to come collect the money. That's not happening.
So
the league is not going anywhere.
The New Orleans Saints right now, okay? The New Orleans Saints they're okay. We saw them here, and we were talking about it heading in, with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave and, Cam Jordan and Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara, and you're like, I know that no one thinks much of the Saints, but they have a lot of players that I think I would like to have on the Patriots. Mm-hmm. They, every year, come February,
we're in cap jail
it's
again,
all
Paul.
over Twitter. The Saints are projected to be $73 million over the cap, and somehow they find a way to retain most of those names that everybody's familiar with and remain a competitive team. Now, Derek Carr isn't as good as Drew Brees, so they're no longer a title contender. I get it. But they were able to acquire a guy, give him some money. They gave him a pretty good contract for a starting quarterback in the league. It's not like that they have a cheap, rookie deal. And they're okay.
So
they're not a train wreck.
But let me.
But every year, everybody tells me what a train wreck they are.
But let me. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. What happens when you're top heavy in terms you've got some stars and you don't have the quarterback? Can you win that way?
Well, this
is
my point.
And you don't have that middle class that the Patriots have always talked about.
My point is they're showing you, yes, they can.
No, they're not going to win. They
Win
don't
what?
have a shot.
Win what?
The Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
right.
I mean, if that's the
there's
deal,
28 teams that can't win the Super Bowl.
No,
I'm sorry.
I don't agree with that.
So just
27.
Just to kind of, because I know that a lot of people probably like lost in the math here. So the Baltimore Ravens this year are the number one team in total cash spending, probably because they just gave Lamar Jackson that huge contract, right? So they're number one in the league in cash spending. They are spending $281 million on their roster for 2023. The salary cap is $224 million. So they're spending $60 million more than what the cap says they should be able to spend on the team because they are doing all these different things.
And no one is suggesting that any team should do that every year. I mean, there are rules in place that you can't do that every year. But no one is suggesting the Patriots are dropping the ball. They should be $60 million over the cap in cash spending every year. No one can do that. Like you said, Fred, everybody has a budget.
Yep.
And I get that. Like, these are all just sort of different elements of Mike's original question about the second contracts.
Yeah, I mean, they are spending almost $100 million more on their team this year than the Patriots. Like, that's crazy. And it's not, look, cash spending does not equate to winning. Like, number one is Baltimore, and number two is the Cleveland Browns. So,
and again, all about the quarterback contract, which hasn't worked. Now, Baltimore's is working. But that's, it's not a guarantee. Like, to Evan's point, guy has a labrum issue. He hasn't played in a month. They're a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Like, you could see the talent on them.
Yeah.
They should have won that game in Seattle the other day with P.J. Walker, again, doing
their
nothing.
defense is fantastic.
Their defense is pretty good. They have some skill guys. They just don't have a quarterback because the quarterback is hurt.
And
he wasn't playing all that great before he got
karma's what. But the Jets are number 3. Again, another team that's paying their quarterback. And then Buffalo is number 4. So,
and I would argue that maybe with the exception of Cleveland, those other 3 teams absolutely at full strength are Super Bowl contenders.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, Jets for sure.
And if Watson played the majority of the games like he did that one game, they would be a Super Bowl contender too.
If they were getting a return on
it.
Watson, the return on investment on Watson, they would be a Super Bowl team.
Right. So to your point, Freddie, maybe it's more like 10 teams that have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl, but then 5.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking that, the Patriot way was to have that middle class. Unfortunately, they could never prove it because they had Tom Brady. Like, you could never prove that that works without the best player of all time.
That's a great summation of the whole thing, because I make fun of Mike all the time. This predates you, Evan. I always call Mike, he still believes in Santa Claus. Like, he still thinks it's because all of those things, it's not about the best 53, it's the right 53. Yeah, as long as number 12 is one of the 53, yes, you can have any philosophy you want, you'll be a contender.
He makes them all work.
Yeah, they were doing, this is like when they were doing a mic'd up thing for the Bruins on Behind the Bee, and it was like roster cut down day. And one of the players was like, think Pasta's gonna make it? I don't know. And it's like, that was how it was with Brady. He would always say like, oh, I got to make the team, and go. And it was like, seriously, guy. But I still think even with Brady though, like, they still had Gronkowski, they still had Edelman, they still had guys on the other side of the football, Hightower and Devin McCourty and players like that. So as much as I feel like they've also lost sight of the fact that they also had other stars. Like, Gronkowski was his own star. Yeah. And I think Gronkowski playing with probably 30 other quarterbacks would have still been Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, Gronk for sure. But do you think Edelman would have?
Maybe not, just because of the system. I think here probably brought out the best in him.
And do you think that having Brady and those points made it easier on guys like McCourty to play defense?
Yep.
Sure.
I think the offense absolutely
there's
made it
a huge trickle-down effect from having Tom Brady. It helps everybody.
Yeah, I think Gronk is an example
Gronk is a standalone.
Gronk
He's a unicorn.
He's a Hall of Fame talent.
Yeah, he's a unicorn.
Would have been.
Yeah.
It's funny. Each year, Tom Brady just gets a little more credit.
He
for
sure
everything,
does.
for everything.
He sure does.
It's absolutely right.
Yep.
Mike.
As you get away, you appreciate it more.
And Fred and I will tell you.
Mike, how's it feel now?
Yeah, Fred and I will tell you that we were not on that side.
Fred
and I were both more on the, never like 100-0, but more like maybe 60-40 Bill.
I always thought
right?
each made the other great. A greater.
But didn't you always give Bill more? I did. Maybe I'm speaking for you. I always gave Bill more of the credit than I gave to Tom.
I think when we had the poll, you can only have one. At the time, we said the coach.
I just wonder if I don't think that Bill the coach is no longer a good coach or forgot how to coach.
He still knows how to coach.
But it's the personnel stuff. Like he's lost touch with how to build a modern NFL roster.
Well, I remember when he first got here, Robert Kraft said, one of the other things that I like about him is he has an economics degree from Wesleyan. Mm-hmm. And so he understands the economics. But now those fundamentals of economics have been blown out the window. Oh. It's now credit card. It's not the family budget and, let's have a balanced budget. That's not how it is anymore.
I'm going to disagree a little bit.
Okay.
I think that coaching is a complex thing. There's a certain aspect of knowing the game and knowing strategy and how to do things. There's also a major element of coaching, getting the team on the same page, getting the team to follow you. Now, Paul makes his jokes about me still believing in Santa Claus. The Santa Claus I believe in is that the best teams are teams that all kind of like each other. That's what I like. I get like the Pioli quote, and we joke about that. It's fine, but I truly believe that, and it's hard to engineer. You can't go out and just find guys that are all going to get along. There's a certain just magic to it. We all played sports in high school where you just kind of end up on a team, and you get who you get on your team. From my experience, the teams that were all kind of on separate pages and, you had this kind of personality didn't really didn't do too well. Teams that you all felt like a family and did well, those are the teams that did well.
But what comes first? The winning and everyone likes each other?
And let me get back to my point, though. But my point is that I don't think this looks like a team that's all on the same page, that's all pulling for the coach right now. I
agree.
And so, I think that that's a criticism that, I totally right about the personnel stuff. That's killed them.
But is that more an indictment on the modern athlete? It's not even just the NFL.
Perhaps
when things are going great.
No,
we're all together.
Perhaps. I mean, perhaps. Look, he's been doing it forever.
Leave me out of it. And it's the modern athlete. Out of it.
It's a hard thing. You can't really quantify what it is. But I just, look, have we seen a well-coached team out there? Is that a well-coached team that's making stupid mistakes over and over and over again? All respect to Bill and the greatest coach of all time, yada yada yada. But look, this is what we're seeing. I'm not seeing a well-coached team, so I'm sure he's a great coach. He knows everything, but whatever, he's not pushing the right buttons anymore.
Well, I mean, if you look at the evolution of the Patriots in the first part of the dynasty, he had those seasoned coaches.
Yeah. And locker room policed itself.
And then as those coaches started leaving, Brady got better. So Brady got made up for the brain drain, but then it got to a point where...
And I agree with you, Mike. I know you said you want to push back a little bit. I think everything you said is right. I just would give more of the credit in retrospect. I didn't think it at the time, but in retrospect, I give more of the credit for that mentality to Brady. Yeah. In the uniting fact, I've heard enough of these stories now about these sort of random guys that were blown away by the fact that he even knew who they were.
Yeah.
I think that he was a bigger part of that than we ever imagined. And it's the same coach now.
Yeah.
And you're talking about all the things. And I think you're 100% right.
Aside
wonder, of the Buffalo game, what other game could you point to this year that they looked like a really well-oiled machine?
And just think of the tone that Brady set at practice. We hear now we've always heard the stories about how he made every practice so damn competitive, and demanding. And practice was almost like a game between the offense and defense, and guys wanted to win that day, and you had guys like Rodney Harrison who bought into that, hook, line, and sinker. It was like the back and forth, and practice was like a game.
What was that story that Vrabel Belichick told at Vrabel's thing?
Trash
about Vrabel serving as Troy Polamalu.
Yeah.
He was, and he's the quarterback didn't like it very much.
Right.
All of a sudden they have a war going on.
Brady's pissed because he's not doing it right.
I think though too with that defensive group, which was a big part of those first 3 championships, that I think that Bill was kind of the right thing for that group because you had a veteran core that had been to a Super Bowl before, that kind of knew Bill a little bit. And I think, that style, I think just worked for them. Like that early 03, 04 defense, I think the buttons that Bill was able to push, I think had a big impact too. I mean, not to take away from what Brady did, but I think he was a really good fit.
He's a great coach. You'll never hear me say he's not a great coach.
For those years, and now it's a different team, and now you've got a lot of young guys that weren't here for that. And, they have an idea in their head of what they watched on TV as children. Yeah. Watching the Patriots, it's not that.
And Bill's style worked perfectly for. That's what Brady wanted.
Yeah.
He wanted no nonsense. He wanted guys, and that's what Bill wanted. And they were completely in sync those early years.
And then you can really tap what Bill. No one is going to argue that Bill doesn't have an encyclopedic knowledge of the NFL and schemes and everything that's happened and all of that. But it's one thing to know all that stuff. Then it's another to look at what Mike McDaniel's doing in Miami and trying to figure out how to stop it. And hello, we haven't been able to stop it, So at what point do we say, "Hey, greatest coach of all time, we need to be able to beat Miami Dolphins if we're going to get back into this thing. They're a division rival. You're paying them 2 years in a row, and for the second time in 2 years, and really should have probably been 3 years in a row, you've gotten swept by them."
Yeah, I think me and Paul, I think, disagree maybe a little bit on Mac's ability on the field. But the thing that you said yesterday about his leadership and the confidence and the intangible stuff, that is, I've really feel like that's come to light for me this year, because I gave him a pass on all that stuff because he was a young player, rookie, second year guy, not really what you're expecting to be sort of carrying the torch at the front of the line necessarily. But now that he's in year 3, I think that's a big thing that is currently missing from him, is that I don't know if he's got that it factor, that leadership, and it's not just about the rah-rah speeches and stuff like that. It's just oozing confidence and that ability to lead by example. And I think that was what Brady had. When Brady, for the couple years that I got to cover him, when Brady would walk into the locker room, the press conference room, whatever, it was oh shit, Tom Brady's in here. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Sit an S.
And didn't even notice. And it was just, you could tell that he who he was.
And again, we don't see the practices. We see training camp, but we don't see the practice during the season. If a majority of the practices, focusing on getting that quarterback better, the rest of the team's spending all this time trying to get one guy to do the right thing.
The funny part about what Evan says too, this is real quick, Mike. Look, I felt like Mac had a lot of those qualities as a rookie.
Yeah,
it was last year that kind of opened my eyes. I get that there was a lot of things that weren't fair to him last year, but you got to be able to handle some of them better than he handled them, and I think that's carried over into this year.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's. I mean, Evan used the example of Tom Brady, which of course by that point, he's just a superstar, and he has that. But even just Will Levis in his first start last week, just looking at him on the field, you're like, this guy looks like he can play. I mean, there's just something about.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady,
Anthony Richardson. You look at him, and you're like. Yeah. I'm on board.
There's some stuff there.
There's some stuff there, and Mac, I think I don't know. I'm kind of more on Evan's side where
Brady's probably obviously an unfair bar, but unfortunately we didn't get to cover Cam in person because of COVID. But
that's a good one.
Cam was another guy that that was Cam Newton, Heisman Trophy, MVP, that guy carried weight where he was, and it was bad.
He didn't play well. But
he didn't play well.
I know what you mean.
But it wasn't because people didn't believe in him. And I remember, Jacoby talking about it. It was his second year, and Jacoby just being he's Cam Newton. Of course I'm going to listen to the advice that he has for my career. And it just, those are the types of guys that I feel that and I don't. I look so much at the film, the X's and O's and all that stuff. You don't really think about the person and the intangibles. And the next guy's got to have that it factor.
I feel like if Mac had those intangibles coming out of his pockets like a lot of other guys do, I think his skill set would be fine. So Evan started that by saying we probably disagree a little bit. We probably do. You're right. But I do think I've seen guys succeed with his level of skill. And I think what holds him back sometimes is some of these other things.
All right. Good discussion.
Paul's got a pizza and 2 sandwiches.
Yeah, we're going to refuel. We'll be back. We'll get to your calls and emails here on Patriots Unfiltered.
Get in on the action with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the New England Patriots. New customers can download the DraftKings app now and play free for millions in prizes using code PATS. That's code PATS, only at DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
What's up, everybody? Check out this clip from the latest episode of Pats from the Past featuring Mike Vrabel.
You know, in 4 years, you did a lot, but you wanted to start. Did you get a sense maybe on that visit or early on, Mike, that these guys had a good idea of how to use you?
Well, I can remember having a conversation with Bill and him saying, hey, really all we need is what you did in that preseason game last year against Miami. And I'm thinking, I don't even remember playing Miami in the preseason. But Bill had gone back and he had watched, and there were clips that he must have seen that there was a vision for, probably an extended play time at that point in time in the preseason or whenever it was. And so then I started thinking, okay, well, at least they have an idea of how they want to use me or what I may be able to do there. Bill had talked about the opportunity, not guaranteeing anything, but saying that there would be a spot available pretty much at outside linebacker where they would have some other players to compete with and then see where things were.
When you look at the way your years unfolded, it's almost like it was a perfect system for you. I mean, did you catch that right away? Like, they really want to use me exactly to suit my skill set?
I wasn't being misused in Pittsburgh. I had just transitioned from a couple different positions, was rotating in and was getting some playing time 3 and 4 years in, special teams, some third down packages, whatever that may be. But this was a new opportunity. Some carryover from Pittsburgh, some different. And then as things progressed and it was, learn this position, I think I played 2 seasons inside linebacker or a season and a half at some point in time and find myself at different spots.
I've heard this from many ex-players, guys who you played with and everything like that. Were you able to get away with more as far as like maybe busting Bill's balls?
Well, I don't know. I think the timing
is that overrated?
Or? No, I don't think it's overrated. I think that there is, like I said yesterday, I think I said things that everybody wanted to say. And I probably was just dumb enough to say it. I sometimes say the quiet part out loud sometimes, unfortunately. But it's all timing. And sometimes, it's a turd in a punch bowl and doesn't always work, but sometimes it works out pretty good. But that takes a little bit of time, and it takes, again, you have to be willing to take it if you want to give it. And I think that Bill always was very conscious of that, whether that's players to Bill or Bill to us. He knew that we had to sit there and take it when we got the low lights, and we'd be on the balustrader, and it would be like what we can't do, and so it was a good situation. We had a bunch of really good teammates that all kind of rallied behind that.
Do you think you were able to back it up with your play though, Mike? I don't know if that's a 53rd or 54th guy that was trying to crack wise. It might be different. Well, you're a core guy on all 3 phases of the game.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes a locker room is just different personalities. Again, you have to perform on the field, and then whatever your personality is, I think there was no restrictions on, hey, we just want a bunch of robots. I think that was the impression that everybody had, and we certainly weren't that.
Well, the best thing about Mike, and I told you this a million times, Mike didn't care who he was busting on. Professional. I used to call you a professional ball buster.
Okay.
That's what you were. I'd come in with like a TV shirt on one day, and he'd go, look at this fraud. He's got TV tonight. It didn't matter. He treated all of us the same, and I think that's probably permeated the locker room and garnered respect in that way.
Well, again, I think the fact that if you have a relationship with somebody, I think that's when you kind of go back and forth with them. It's like having a nickname. You don't have a nickname, there's no such thing as a bad nickname. Just be appreciative that you have a nickname. That means that they know who you are and that you're kind of a part of the group. And if you don't have a nickname, you better try to figure out why. And so it was, whether it was the relationship with the media, it was a two-way street, assistant coaches and certainly teammates.
Much has been made. You played in a different era, believe it or not, as during your career, the league was starting to legislate against defenses, hard hitting and everything like that. When you look back at the Warner play, Ty's interception, I thought it was very generous of Ty to give you credit yesterday too. Are you going to get flagged for that if that play happens today, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think that what we've talked about is matching the hand, and they've changed here in the last year or two about what's forcible. I don't know. You know what I mean? I should have gotten there sooner, to be honest with you. They didn't block me. It was just a lucky play, and Ty did all the work. But whether it's, as long as it's not forcible, we've talked about matching the hand, and same thing that they teach here, and where everybody else is trying to teach. And didn't hit the football. I'm glad that I didn't, so that Ty was able to catch it and score.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
I'm fine with it.
I know you are.
I mean, it's Tom freaking Brady.
I know you're fine with
it. I know it hurt them last year. Like they didn't win the Super Bowl enough.
See, this is
did have a slow September though.
It did slow them down in September. Yeah,
this is why you can't have conversations with him.
Because I know the facts.
Instead of yes, you know what? It's a fact based on what you just said that they won the Super Bowl because he didn't show up for the offseason.
No, I said it.
That's what you're trying to insinuate.
I said it didn't hurt them. I'm not insinuating
anything. You're trying to insinuate
anything. I'm not insinuating. I'm saying it didn't hurt them. They won the Super Bowl.
Well, my worry would be,
and that's why.
My worry would be if they started.
Not, again, you're putting words in my mouth.
Okay, well, I'm going to insinuate that it did hurt them.
If he was here, they could have
just. They maybe would have taken 17 weeks to get the offense in tune if he was here. I mean, if we could just make stuff up, then I'm going to do it too.
That's another great moment from
Patriots Unfiltered.
All right, we're back on Patriots Unfiltered, and I just want to let you know that Bridgestone is the official tire of the New England Patriots, and Bridgestone tires are now on sale through November 15th at all Sullivan Tire locations. Visit sullivantire.com for a location near you. So drive your bald tires over to Sullivan Tire. Get your new tires.
You're talking to me. I hear it.
Bridgestone.
Too much tread on your tires.
Yeah.
How do you test that? Is there like a certain test
you use a penny?
Yeah.
And you put the penny in the tread, and if it gets to Abe Lincoln's head or something, or his eyes, or it doesn't, then you need new tires.
Got it.
Too much tread. It's not too little tread.
Too much tread.
Too much tread.
Oh, car guy.
People confuse that.
What's that? Too much tread?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like it's the opposite of what you think.
I don't understand.
Like, I think a lot of people say, like, oh, you have not like there's too little tread on your tire. It's too like too much.
You have
tread.
A lot of tread on your tire. I get you because you've used it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I got you. I thought you were trying to tell me that bald tires were better for a second there. You need more tread on your tire, but I got you.
No, but like
the true meaning of tread.
You know, that dude, he's got a lot of tread on his tires. That means
you're getting old.
You're getting old.
Well, thanks a lot.
Sorry, news.
Thanks for nothing.
Right. So what is the term for having good tires?
I don't know. I have to ask the real car guy, my dad.
Not a lot of tread? You got any with not a lot of tread on them?
Fresh tires, maybe? Fresh?
Tire. That's Hardy would say. Tire.
But don't you call them the treads? Aren't they the treads on the tire?
Tire tread.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
so maybe we're getting confused
this
between...
This is where I think we're getting into a Patriots Unfiltered discussion
here. It is. It's like,
where's Eric when you need him?
This is my point. It's confusing.
In the old days when you used to have 16-game seasons, after 4 games, you would, you'd check in at the quarter pole.
No,
it's really the three-quarter pole.
It's a three-quarter pole, right? Yeah.
Got a lot of tread on that.
And like Matt Slater at his locker after the game, he said, we're in uncharted waters. No, it's uncharted.
Uncharted
waters.
Correct.
I wouldn't chart my way to those waters either, just to be.
That is
so
one
I
that
can
I did wrong
explain
for
the NFL
years.
salary cap, but I am totally lost in this conversation.
It is uncharted. No, Fred's right. The word is uncharted, not
because there's no chart of it.
There's no map of it.
Right.
You didn't charter a boat at the beginning of the season
Right.
and say, "Hey, let's go to 2-6 land."
Can't go there. Don't know where it is.
Now, it is true that you
How you
can't
find
charter a boat to something you don't have a map of because you don't know it exists. So,
yeah, you could
in
just
a way, anyway.
Anyway, the
all right,
wind goes.
855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. We'll start with Patty and Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, Jen?
Hey.
I want to go back to conversation that Fred and Paul had prior to the season starting.
Uh-oh.
And regarding Mac Jones, and I'm not trying to dogpile on Mac Jones, but I think, and I'm paraphrasing, but Fred asked the question, what's going to take for this team to make the playoffs and make a real run? And I think Paul said, I don't think he said elite, Paul, but I think he said, I think the quarterback has to be excellent. And I think it's safe to say through 8 games, we haven't seen it. We've seen it for a game. I don't think we're going to see it for the rest of the season. But, and just going back to yesterday, I forgot the caller's name, but, even when the product on the field is lacking, the product in studio, Freddie, is on point, goes above and beyond. So,
That's right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's because of callers like you.
Yeah.
Todd's in North Carolina. What's up, Todd?
Hey, guys. I just listened to your early talking about drafting and everything, and it just kind of something dawned on me. We're a take-a-chance team when it comes to drafting offense. Like, even the best guy that we've ever got, Brady, was a chance. It was the 7th round. You take a look at bringing in Edelman and bringing Welker from the Dolphins. It was like, hey,
Gronk.
these guys are good. Let's take a chance on them. Gronk, big chance, bumping. N'Keal Harry is like, hey, look, he's got something we might want. Take it. They don't go for solids. Like, I think with Gonzalez, that was a solid pick. I think with a lot of their defensive picks, they go for solid. They see it. I think the solid pick would have been Zay Flowers, to be honest with you. I don't understand why they can't just take solid picks on offense. I think there's something missing in their offensive mindset. They just don't seem to be able to figure it out, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You guys could.
They've struggled.
No, it's a good
That's
point,
Evan's,
Todd.
That's Evan's point.
I mean,
They've
I don't
struggled
really-
identifying offensive talent.
I mean, that's true. I don't really attach Harry into that. Like, I just think
I don't think Harry was like in that category,
No.
but I agree with Todd's
And-
overall point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the fact that they hit on Gronk and they hit on Edelman. Like, you know what I mean? They just, they drafted them. They had a plan. Like, give them credit for that. But if those picks hadn't happened, like, where else would
Flyers
that
are
talent
different
have
to
come
me
from?
than like Christian Gonzalez is not the same as J.C. Jackson.
Yeah,
I think my frustration with their offensive drafting is that they somehow figure it out like on day 3 or an undrafted free agency, even recently.
Yeah.
But then they don't target those traits early. So, for example, Pop Douglas is a perfect fit for the Bill O'Brien offense because of his quickness and his ability with the football in his hands. So instead, they drafted Tyquan Thornton, who is a linear burner that is a deep threat to get up the field. So my whole thing has always just been, why are we not drafting Pop Douglas's equivalent?
Zay Flowers.
That's in a
a
top
first round
50
version. Yeah.
prospect. And like back in, I was texting with Barth, as we always do, about everything, and football wise, I mean, and he said, in 2019 we were talking about Terry McLaurin, and he was like, if we were running the board, we probably would have taken Terry McLaurin.
That was my guy in 2019.
And it's like he was a route runner. He has good hands. He goes over the middle. He plays on special teams. Like, that's a Patriot. But instead they took N'Keal Harry. Yeah. And so it's, why can you know what traits work for you? You know what players, like Cole Strange. Since when does like an athletic guard, no, Mike Onwenu is a Patriots guard. But you took Mike Onwenu in the 6th round and you took Cole Strange in the 1st round. It just is. It's all backwards.
Do you think 2022 really was like a schematic departure in terms of
That's
the drafting?
only,
Because
like,
Pierre Strong, like they
did so many
I've heard a lot of that, and I've
know.
seen some good breakdowns. Some people have had on Twitter. I don't believe it. I don't think that they had and I talked a little bit in the preseason to James Ferentz was one of our players that we got in a preseason game. production meeting. And I talked to him about the differences in the offenses, from Josh to last year to Billy O, and he's like, it's really a lot of the same stuff. Now, this is also a guy who, let's face it, is like a coach.
Yeah.
James Ferentz.
He literally
coaches the offensive line.
He comes on the road to coach the offensive line, not because he's being promoted.
So I get it. He might, for him, it might not be the same as it would be for someone else, but he feels like the base system didn't really change. Now, they certainly had plays that they accentuated. We can talk a lot, and I know Evan can talk for days about the differences in the way they tried to run the ball, and the zones and the. There you go. Come on. My favorite phrase that you use in the running game.
Which one?
Pin and pull.
Oh, pin and pull.
Come on. You gotta give me what. I'm a simple man. I just need what I want.
I thought he wanted crack toss.
Crack toss would have been another one.
I love a good crack toss. Crack toss is great.
Who doesn't?
It's a great scheme.
But anyway, Ferentz felt like Ferentz felt like there was a lot of similarities to all three systems, even though they probably have some.
Yeah,
some different.
It's a talking point that comes up a lot with Pierre Strong.
But Pierre Strong,
so finding a way to contribute a little bit here and there.
So he has
41-yard catch and run the other day in Seattle.
That's his only catch on the year.
No, I know he hasn't been a huge part of it.
But the thing is about Pierre Strong is that trade still bugs me.
It made no sense.
He was the only scat back you had on the team. He's the only guy that has that skill set. He's the only explosive guy in space on the roster, and they trade.
He's on IR now.
It's another one of those things.
But like you traded a guy for someone who didn't ever even play in an NFL game.
Never, not once.
Like
Pierre Strong played okay,
and you could tell me, okay, he doesn't really fit what we want to do. I get it. Okay, great. We moved on, but like you just gave him away, and we weren't even supposed to entertain the idea of perhaps trading Josh Uche for like a 5th-round pick. Like, we just gave Pierre Strong away for nothing.
I know, really.
And we couldn't even talk about the trade deadline?
It's crazy for how bad they needed tackles, and they made that trade, which they gave up the most for. And then, is Tyrone Wheatley even going to be part of the team next year? Like, is that, like you said, did we just burn Pierre Strong? Like, we just sent him
again, I don't think that we'll be sitting here in 5 years, Fred, saying, you know what?
Yeah.
That Pierre Strong, man, we could have had him. We had him.
Yeah.
I don't think that will happen, but it doesn't mean that he was completely valueless. You traded him for no value.
Right. Well, especially if, Zeke or Ramondre gets hurt here in the next, few weeks or something, and you don't have any depth behind them at all. You're just right to Kevin Harris, and there's somebody else on the practice squad who
there's a running back
Patrick
on the practice
Taylor.
squad?
Yeah, Patrick Taylor. I know. Well,
that's remember there was a time, Fred, where I knew all the practice squad guys.
Evan
has passed.
Evan is left for practice, so when he gets back, we'll get that update. In the meantime, let's go to Ide in Florida. What's up, Ide?
Hey, I've been listening. It's my first season listening to you guys, and I've been a fan for about 15 years. So I just wanted to say,
welcome.
I really wish I would have started listening earlier.
Well, you can go back and listen to the archives.
I have a technical question I wanted to ask you guys. Sadly, Evan left, but I was going to say, what team do you think would be better? If you put a prime Tom Brady on this roster, or if you put a Mac Jones on like our 16, 17, 18 rosters where we went to 3 consecutive Super Bowls. So I just wanted to get your guys'
That's a great question.
Which team would be better?
That's
that's
a good intro.
Thanks, Ide.
That's a good introduction, though.
Brady.
Yeah.
Come on.
Don't you think that's a
Brady
good question?
on this team? Yes. Everybody's healthy again.
Yeah.
Or I think Brady on this team.
Yeah, I do too. And you're lucky you picked that way, because after how good you told me the defense was yesterday, that was the right answer for you. Very consistent.
Thank you.
You were very consistent there. I would agree with you guys.
Yeah. It gives you nightmares trying to think of Mac trying to hit Cooks downfield. You'd be like, oh, they're not getting my guy the ball.
They would have had to do a double pass.
Some people say, Brady on Foxborough High.
Foxborough High's got some big kids. I'm telling you, I saw him play a few weeks ago. They got a 300-pounder.
Yeah, they moved their way all the way down to Division 5. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about playing them because the MIA decided to ban us from the postseason.
Don't get Paul started.
Did the division still work?
Sports.
Like Division 1 is the best, and Division because
the biggest.
It's
by
just
size.
the biggest, but it's not quality of competition.
No.
No. But generally, those things correlate.
There
There
are plenty of teams in Division 5 that could, like Foxborough is one of them.
Yeah.
Hanover is another one. They could beat teams in higher divisions. Fenwick has beaten teams in higher divisions this year. but they couldn't play with like St. John's Prep or CM.
Yeah, those
they're
are
just
big
too
boys.
big.
Yeah.
King Philip.
Too fast,
And they
too strong.
recruit. Al's in Wisconsin. What's up, Al?
Hey, so I've got a taken development that I kind of wanted your thoughts on.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm thinking, obviously, we've been talking a lot about what the future is going to be, and I think most people here agree that they'd sort of like to see the season played out, and then Bill and the team sort of part ways amicably and kind of move on to the future. But then I'm seeing like the news about the contract coming out, and then the other day on the radio, Bill saying that, you know, he can't possibly be coach and GM, and it feels like he's sort of absolving himself of that. So I almost feel like Bill is setting himself up to be like, hey, they're going to have to fire me if I'm not here next year. Like, I'm not taking responsibility for this. And I'll take it off the line. Thanks, guys.
I didn't take it like that.
I'm 1,000% with Al.
Okay.
I do think that there's something to it.
You think he's absolving himself?
I think he's trying to say both. Like he's sort of separating himself from the personnel side. I don't think that's working because I don't think anybody buys it. But more importantly, I think he's trying to say, yeah, I'm not just going to make it easy for you and walk away. I intend to keep coaching, and if you want another coach here, you're going to have to fire me.
Well, do you think he was also kind of telling us that some of my duties have been taken away?
I don't.
No,
I don't think so. No, I don't. I think this is somewhat maybe just another one of these situations where it feels like he's kind of. I feel it was almost with the we have to reset this week, that line. You know, he's saying these signs that there's these like little sayings that the GM thing like that. He doesn't really mean it that way, but then he kind of paints himself into a corner, and then he's not able to like really get out of it and be like, look, I just meant we have to reset like we always do, start over in the week, forget this game, refocus on next week. We're not going to blow everything up tomorrow and try to figure it out. You know, like I think that's what he really meant, but then everyone's like, oh my God, they're going to reset everything. And then it, you know, so I just feel like he's getting himself into these situations that he's not going to dig himself out of because it would take him like having to explain something he said, and so he just lets everybody kind of run with it.
Well, yeah, because bottom line is he kind of doesn't care what we think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But did you catch the one thing where he caught himself? He was talking about, you know, personnel and coaching, and he said, you know, when I talk, something along the line that when I talked to him, meaning Matt Groh, and then he corrected himself, the department.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it was almost like he didn't want people to think that Matt Groh has power and I have power, and we talk with each other. It was more department to department.
Yeah.
You know.
And I also think that I've been around this whole time of his era. I've never heard him say how difficult it would be to handle both of those jobs at the same time. I think that was an effort to say, you know, this isn't all on me.
Yeah.
The roster got here as a collective, not just my fault.
Well, but I also took it as, hey, you know, these guys do their job, you know, and I trust them to do their job. And when there's something that they need to talk to me about, they talk to me about it.
But the bottom line is he has final say on the roster.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any
but I don't think there was
ambiguity to that at all. But I think he tried to make it sound that way.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I didn't take it that way. Like he was saying that he still didn't have full control.
It's a full-time coaching is a full-time job.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
Well,
I know he didn't mean it, but that's what he said.
No, but this time of the year.
To your point, Mike.
Yeah. But I think this time of the year, he's focused on getting ready for Washington, and they're focused on personnel, which that's their job. And when they need to consult me, they do.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty. It was that simple, but I
think he's trying to distance himself from the talent.
Yeah, I don't know, but if he's doing that, then he's saying I'm not making the choices.
Right. So then let's make it official.
I think he's trying to make it vague, like this isn't, you know, maybe it's not all on him.
Well,
like because right now, wouldn't you say that the worm is turned on Bill in the court of public opinion?
Oh
that
yeah,
it's. I don't know what the percentage is, but it
at least they're more vocal.
Last year at this time, I don't think you had more than 20% of the people saying that it might be time to make a change.
I think it was more than that then.
I think it's a lot more than that now.
I think the moment Brady won that Super Bowl, it changed.
Yeah, I don't think that people wanted to get rid of Bill. I mean, we still have passionate defensive Bill.
Well, I think the people they were less emboldened, so they were silent. But now they feel emboldened to say it because I think they were always there.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was always people that didn't like Bill.
Yeah.
But they recognized that he was a great coach. Now the people that don't like him also are wondering, how great was he ever?
Yeah.
which that never happened. And I think that you get some of that now. I don't know what the number is, but to Fred's zeitgeist thing, zeitgeist.
Yep. Yeah. Zeitgeist.
It's definitely in the zeitgeist that more people than not want him gone.
I mean, 2020, the decision last year with Patricia and what they did, the offense.
That might have been
that's the thing.
That hurt.
Like I think 2020, Brady goes to a stacked team. It's COVID.
Give Bill a chance to rebuild
year.
it.
Like I mean, we all know how miserable I was when Brady won that one. But I wasn't really. And then it felt like when they drafted Mac. I mean, I remember standing out on that field when the Mac came in, and felt like kind of COVID had passed, and we were all out on the field, and it felt like things were getting back to normal. We got the quarterback, all right. Here we had a great free agency. It felt like here we go.
Mike is right about that.
Good start to the season. Like some tough ones, but man, this kid
no
can play.
No one wanted back until we drafted him.
Yeah, and then as Paul
was
said,
like,
right after that
the
Buffalo Wind win, and then you went on the break. And
we got the best quarterback. We didn't have to trade up. Checkers.
Right.
We just sat there at 15 and let him come to us. No one wanted him until they drafted him. Then he became the best quarterback in the draft. Now he's slipped back to number 2.
Well, that year he was.
Even though I don't think he is the number. Not for anybody that was watching, including you, by the way.
No, I knew that eventually.
Including you, by the way. You saw
he had the best
that
year.
Trevor Lawrence could play.
Oh, I knew that.
Oh, yeah.
But he had.
Love him.
Technically speaking, he had the best year of any quarterback.
I would
of
love,
that class.
believe me, I would love to snarkily make fun of you for saying things like that. You didn't. You were always Trevor Lawrence.
I said it that year.
Yes, you did.
Of course, because I knew what Trevor Lawrence was going to be.
And Fred knows.
Compared to what Mac was going to be. So there's no doubt.
Here.
But if you want to make the case, who had the best year that season? It was Mac.
Yeah, he did.
But I knew that Trevor was better.
Right. But that's kind of been the last 3 years, and then, the decision with Patricia was just the doozy.
Let's go to Eldred, North Carolina. Hey, Eldred.
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing today?
All right.
Hello, Eldred.
Deuce.
Yo.
Deuce, I'm gonna always jump on you, just like who's that?
Just
said he's my quarterback. Jumping on Tom Brady, he went to a stacked team.
Yeah.
He had to do the same
Terrell
thing
Owens.
Cam do. Learn the team and the players, but he won. So. That's just Brady. But I got one question for you. I know y'all talking about the personnel moves. Let's say we go on a five-game run, right?
Yep.
And then we'll lose the rest of the game, right? Ain't the same guy making the choices next year with next year's draft, and how you feel about it?
So we end up 7-9. Obviously, Mac had to have done something in order to be 7-9.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Well, if you go 5-4 with the rest of your games, it doesn't necessarily mean your quarterback played all that much
Well,
better.
I
could see Paul's scenario.
I mean, you could beat the Giants.
We've seen him win some games.
You could beat the Commanders.
You don't
could
feel
beat
great
the Colts.
about it.
That's true. Yeah.
You don't feel great about it.
But the Colts are going to score points. They've scored points this year.
So the
but what if they don't that day?
Well, no. But I'm just saying, looking ahead, who are these teams? The Colts are a team that has scored points. They're not like the Jets and the Giants.
I agree, but maybe the defense wins those games. That's my point.
Yep. Yeah.
That could happen.
It's possible.
The defense beat the Jets.
Yep. Who built the defense?
And
Bill.
And again,
right?
If that guy makes the same choices that he's been making for the last 15 years, I've been saying get his butt off the gym, how would you feel?
I wouldn't be happy.
I mean,
if they go 7-10 and run it all back, I won't be happy.
Me too.
I'll be upfront about that. Now,
I
if something that I don't envision happens and Matt just lights it up the second half of the year and they score 30 points 7 out of the 9 games and they finish the season red hot and go 8-9 or something like that, but they're scoring in all kinds of entertaining games, that's different. But if they just sort of slog through and win some and lose some, and it's the same offense that we've seen and it's the same defense that we've seen beating up on bad quarterbacks, I think they need to change.
Yeah,
I think
they got a backup. They have a young kid who's never really done anything in Howell this week. They have a backup the next week. They're going to have probably going to have a backup against the Giants. Yeah. Like if I absolutely can see them winning some of these games.
Yeah,
it's not going to tell me anything about any improvement.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's just going to tell you how close to the bottom are they. They're playing teams that are Denver, the Giants. I mean, these are bottom barrel teams right now. Only really. The Chiefs and the Bills are the really good ones. So I don't know. I think you're going to know exactly where they stand at the end of the year.
I think that Jets game is going to be a tough game.
I think that
with or without.
I think if the Jets have a chance to make the playoffs, I would say that the Jets will win that game.
Boy, what a game that would be.
Lucas is on the line. What's up, Lucas?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Okay.
I called a couple of weeks ago about best free agent pickups when we're facing Steph, and obviously we mentioned Judon, but got me thinking about like who's our best offensive free agent, like with it. I think the cheap answer is Edelman, obviously, but is it like Amendola? Like I don't know. Like, and are we going to attract any real free agents in the offseason? And I know Paul's going to say if you pay them, they'll come, but.
Oh yeah, no, but I do agree with that. But your question is still valid. Will they pay them after they did that in 21 and it didn't work? It's a good question.
Best offensive free agents that we've signed.
The best free agent, offensive player, best offensive player they signed as a free agent.
True free agent.
So it doesn't count Moss or Welker.
Cooks,
right?
Cook.
That was a trade. That was a trade.
That was
too.
a trade. They
have a lot of
pick,
trades, but free agent addition
Brandon
offensively.
LaFell? I don't know.
It's got to be Amendola and then
Amendola,
maybe Waters.
Welker was a restricted free agent, right?
Welker was a trade.
Oh, he was a trade too?
Yeah. He was a restricted free agent, but they ended up trading for him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have a lot.
Corey Dillon.
That was a trade.
Trade? All right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
but you can see.
Okay, thanks, Lucas.
You can sort of see it's sort of deceiving. It's deceiving.
Right. Well, it's trying to. I mean,
there's a lot of good players they've acquired as from other organizations offensively.
Yeah.
Just because none of them were free agents doesn't mean, it's probably Amendola. He's right.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick says Deuce is 1,000% correct.
I agree. I don't even know what we're talking about.
It's not just Bill the GM. It's also Bill the coach. The team hasn't been well coached in a few years. All the trend lines are going the wrong way. But most importantly, I don't feel Bill is the same coach he used to be. I'm going to keep saying it. Bill has lost his 100-mile-per-hour fastball and now is just a good coach amongst other good coaches. Nothing exceptional about the coaching on this
It's
team.
like Detroit Tigers' Frank Tanana.
He's just got to learn how to throw a knuckleball.
He's still painting the corners at 92. He can still coach. I believe that. No one will ever tell me that he's not a great coach.
Oh yeah.
Now, is he doing a great job right now? Currently, probably not.
Right.
But I saw this guy do enough as a coach that I'm pretty comfortable saying that I feel like he's a great coach.
Like I'm sure there are other. I mean, it's hard to think of one off the top of my head, but of just great coaches that the team kind of fell apart around them, and I know Bill's GM, so it's kind of a unique scenario, but. They're still great coaches, and then just because this team kind of fell apart, you lost some guys.
They weren't able to put it back together,
and he could maybe go somewhere else and still do it. But I per my earlier rant, it's just it's not a well coached football team, and I can't tell you that it has been. It's been frustrating.
Parker from Manhattan sent an interesting email. We
Parker.
were talking about the ineligible man downfield role.
Oh,
so
great. No wonder why you find it so interesting.
But I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he went to ChatGPT to get an explanation, and
great.
it was good.
I've lost
not going to
interest.
read it all, but there's 4 points: level playing field, safety, strategic integrity, and clarity for officials and viewers. And there's description of what each of those mean,
I like the clarity.
which
I
made
like
sense.
that.
But then he went further. He also
I'm
used
taking it a step further.
He also used ChatGPT to analyze the hosts.
Oh God!
Of Patriots Unfiltered.
All right, now I'm interested.
I really have no interest in this.
And so this is interesting. Yeah. So ChatGPT, according to this AI, Paul Perillo, known for his deep understanding of the game in the New England Patriots, he is often seen as a voice of reason on the show, providing analytical insights and well-reasoned arguments.
Even I would say that's a stretch.
Mike Dussault brings a fresh perspective to the show with a mix of analysis and fan insights.
There you go.
He's been recognized for his balanced views and passion for the game.
Okay.
And his love of silver pants and hoodies.
And cutoff hoodies.
Fred Kirsch, as the show's moderator, Fred has the challenging role of keeping the discussions on track while injecting his own thoughts. He's known for his humorous takes and keeping the show lighthearted. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree 1,000%.
You do have a tough job.
Now,
you have the hardest job.
This is the one I have a problem with ChatGPT. Eric Scalavino, appreciated for his attention to detail and his commitment to providing accurate information. He's known for backing up his points and facts with stats, making him a reliable source of information.
Well, I do still watch.
Did Eric write
Was this supposed to be Evan?
Well, no, he's got Eric Scalavino.
No.
Okay.
Does Evan have one?
Yeah. I mean,
He does have one?
I had the thing,
Nope.
the key one that, I raised an eyebrow at was accurate information.
Information.
How many times did he come off like he was and then we would look it up and no, that's not it.
You're talking about
Tossing stuff out of a plane,
just
that's
life in
Jets.
general.
Or whatever, yeah.
I thought we were just talking about the Patriots.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
So he doesn't have one for Evan.
He doesn't.
So I wonder if that's supposed to be Evan.
Maybe.
Well, we'll see. But
ChatGPT gets
but maybe
confused.
Parker, if you want to do one specifically for Evan.
Yeah, thanks for being
That would be good.
Thanks for being kind to me. Obviously, you inputted the right stuff.
Did it say
about
what
me.
the question was?
Well, he doesn't input anything.
He just says, "Tell me who Paul Perillo is."
I think
like,
so.
That was the
Like,
question.
give us an
How would they
analysis.
know?
What was the prompt?
Because they go and
Yeah, don't you have to prompt something? I mean, I don't know.
Prompted.
Listen to me.
Prompt.
maybe it
This
goes
is
like
typical
because
PU right here.
on the Apple,
On
you
the-
know,
on the Apple.
people give reviews of the pod, so maybe it's based on reviews from listeners, or
Maybe.
I don't know.
Chat. Like
Find
Reddit
that-
threads
I
about.
find that hard to believe based on my email and tweets. My ats.
I was hoping they were going to be like, Paul also appears on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Like, I needed like
Yeah.
some
I'll be
factual
on-
information.
I'll be on
that
my show today.
Backed it up. Oh, tease it. Maybe we should tease the shows next week too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually don't have Evan as a host. I just typed in, tell me about Patriots Unfiltered, and it has hosted by Paul Perillo, Eric Scalavino, Mike Dussault.
Oh,
don't even have Fred's name in here.
No Megan?
Wow.
All right. Well.
Okay.
Deuce.
Should be, I guess.
PP in the
OG.
deuce.
PP in the deuce.
Do
Right
you have
again.
a plan of attack today for your show?
I do not.
Get a tangle.
I know the McDaniel stuff is on their minds, which I'm not overly interested in. And I kind of told them so, but I still think it's going to be coming up. And then it's just a continue of like our conversation. Just how do you fix this?
Yeah.
How do you fix this?
Chris with a TIAN. Great discussion about acquiring and re-signing players. The big problem I see, there is simply no core of this team, no 5 to 10 players they can say, okay, this is who we are building around. I worry about re-signing the big three of Duggar, Uche, and Onwenu. I have flashbacks to the Jones, Collins, and Hightower where they only ended up signing Hightower. Also, I don't think this big three is as good or worth re-signing. I think like they'd be signed simply because they have the need. However, who is pulling the trigger this offseason will determine that. And P.S. Good luck today, Paul, from 4 to 5 on Felger and Maz. Hopefully he can get through his weekly segment without Jimmy playing snorting bill drops and the boys crackling like hyenas.
I know. Like last week, it was just like they're playing a Bill drop that was like over the top, even for Bill, with the snorts and the. I was like, you guys have 19 other hours a week to do this. Why do you have to do it in the 1 hour a week that I spend with you? Just in case someone's listening and I get ripped for like smirking or laughing, because it's funny. I mean, I'm not denying that, but how about a little something for the effort?
Gavin says, to your point on keeping players that work for them, if they kept players that work in their scheme, why not keep them?
If they have players that work in their scheme,
Yeah.
why not keep them?
It would make it easier in future drafts by not having to waste picks on replacements. This way, they can focus more on upgrading than gap filling.
Right, and that's why I don't like some of the draft picks. Like even this year, and the jury's still out, but it's Gonzalez, White, Mapu. Two of those guys. I mean, Gonzalez was a definite need, huge need, and I'm not saying that because he looked like he's going to be a good player based on the first 3 games, but White and Mapu just added layers of depth that you don't need to have. Now, my guess is they probably will. They'll probably let some of these guys go and plug those guys in for a year, and then those guys will go, and the vicious cycle continues instead of just identifying a half dozen guys that you say, okay, this guy we took 4 years ago is good enough. Yeah. Well, let's just take him, and then in this draft 3 years later, maybe we can find a wide receiver. Maybe we don't have to worry about finding some targets or, seeing if you can get a distressed asset like Devontae Parker, who, was on Miami and it was okay in Miami, but they didn't need him because they were going with a different system that they felt like he wasn't really suited for. So, hey, perfect for us. We can swoop in and get him. Yeah. Like, you get what you pay for.
And guess what? We've got Evan.
Evan has returned from practice. Evan
has returned from practice. Yeah, Evan has returned from practice. What was the mood? Who wasn't there? What did he see?
All right, Evan. On this cool day out there, temperature-wise, how was it?
It is chilly.
It's crisp.
I did not enjoy that piece of this. Anyways, 4 absences at Patriots practice. We can get to the mood in a second.
Boy.
Four
Four
absences. Wide receiver Devontae Parker, Trent Brown, Calvin Anderson, and the worst one, Pharaoh Brown.
What?
Not the Pharaoh guys.
Good for Jawan.
So Jawan Bentley was there, but
not moving a lot.
Were they in pads,
doing
though?
a lot. They were in pads.
They were in pads.
And
Okay.
Jawan Bentley, I would say, was not participating in that.
So you wouldn't be surprised if he is a DNP when
Correct.
the report comes out.
But I
later.
do think it's good that he was
Yeah.
there.
Walking around.
Because that means that, he's trying to get
I
in
think
on
Trent
the game.
Brown is just.
Yeah, we don't worry
See
about
you-
him.
see
Veteran
you-
day off.
See you Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though he's the only real tackle they have, well, we're not worried about
Yeah,
him. He'll
see
be
you
there.
Sunday.
Yep. So, 44 degrees on my Apple Watch. What did it feel like out there?
Cutting it out again.
It was chilly. It was brisk, and there's a lot of people that were definitely moving around and trying to keep the body.
This is
temp.
the media
It's
you're talking
that-
about.
Yes.
That cold? Huh?
It's
People
cold.
underdressed.
43?
I think it was
Oh,
more.
yeah.
I think it was more the
43.
underdressing. Yeah, we're
Just
all
ticked up to
I
44.
got my fall jacket today, and it's close to like winter jacket temperature.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah. Now on Sunday, it's going to be, I think, close to 60. Right? It's going to be nice.
I was just looking at the
Of course.
Frankfurt weather, but yes, I believe it's going to be nice this weekend.
Okay.
So,
I have 57.
57 and
57?
cloudy. But for those of us interested, it looks like Frankfurt. It's going to be no. It doesn't look like rain right now from when we're there. So
Yeah. Okay.
What's the temperature there?
we'll get there when we get
Like
there.
Frankfurt
50.
in the 50s.
50.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
yeah, well,
I know.
No.
So, given the weather, given
an
the
hour and a half.
temperature, what was the mood of the players?
Oh,
The players, they still seem like players, like into it. I don't know. I mean, I
Still
keep
coming to
on
work.
I keep on trying to. I really seriously. I keep trying to find some quit. Like I keep looking for it, and I keep trying to find if there's any sort of look of quit or moping around or whatever. And I didn't see a whole lot of that.
So I was leaving here yesterday, and one of the gentlemen that works for the stadium, I don't know if he was like a maintenance guy, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what department, but he's
Paul doesn't pay attention to those
some guy.
No,
Some dumb guy.
No, I didn't say that.
He knew who you were.
Well, I mean,
Mr. Perillo. Mr. Perillo.
he didn't say Mister. He said Paul. But we were talking, and as we were walking out, he's like, he goes, I was just down around like with the players. There's a bunch of guys, and like they're like laughing and joking around. And I said, one of the things that really shocked me when I first started working here 100 years ago was you get on the plane after a loss, and you'd have no idea if they won or lost. Like, the game's over. I know they all care, but the game's over, and it's time to move on. Like, that's the way they – like, to Evan's point, like, you're looking for indications that people are upset. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find that.
You weren't on the plane in 07.
That
was different.
Yeah, I actually was on the plane
I know,
in
I'm
07
only kidding.
with a lot of the players, and that's an example. Like, I remember, like, the post-game party.
Well, yeah, I didn't like that at all.
I remember, like, going, like, I felt like I was going up to players, like, almost like, I'm sorry, and like, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't want people to think that these guys didn't play hard and didn't care. But they were like, yeah,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Like they whooped us.
Yeah.
They were better than us today, and we did. When you don't bring it, that can happen. They were more physical than us. I talked to like 5 or 6 different guys after that game. You'd never know.
I saw the
You'd
lineman.
never know.
I saw the lineman walk into the hotel and tell the hotel to turn the highlights off on the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that. Like, maybe not as much anymore, but when I was growing up,
me too.
Next day highlights, no chance. Yeah. I mean, I still haven't seen any of the Super Bowls that they lost.
Remember the "We Are Killing the Patriots"? Shannon Sharp.
Hell yeah.
I was so mad after that game.
Too.
And I was an adult. I wasn't just a kid. I was so mad after that game.
Threw his sippy cup across the room.
Yeah, goo-goo-ga.
Cody writes in, Mike, giving a sob story tone about how awful it is to root for a team to lose is insane. You don't have to do that at all. If you're a fan, cheer for your team. Good God, what are we even talking about on this show today?
No.
Oh, jeez.
That took a turn, a misunderstood turn right there.
Finger wag.
I don't think it's that serious.
It's nothing worse than the finger wag, especially when it's wrong.
Sebastian from Clifton, New Jersey says ChatGPT is trained on older internet information. I'm not 100% certain, but it probably still thinks Tom Brady is the quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Anywho, quick prediction. I don't want this, but I believe the Patriots will bring back BB and Mac for the duration of Mac's rookie contract, whatever that may be. And BB will ride off into the sunset with his record, and the Crafts save themselves the embarrassment of letting two GOATs walk away from the organization and have success elsewhere. Love the show, and thank you for all you do.
I think that's ambitious.
Do you think that's a real thing about like not wanting to let someone else walk away? Do you think they're worried about that? Like, that he might go somewhere else and win somewhere else? Like,
I don't know about win somewhere else,
but just not having a nice departure.
I think being tied to the end of Parcells, the end of Brady, and the end of Belichick is something that the Kraft family thinks about. I don't know about the record. I'm just talking about you have arguably two of the greatest coaches, and you're you actually could add. I mean, Carroll's going to be a Hall of Fame coach too.
Yeah,
probably.
I just wonder, like, with the whole. So Bill's 72,
he will be,
and he talks about how he really didn't feel like he had the Patriots up and running until like 2003, right? I think he says like 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So at 72, he's going to move to a different team and then get the program up and running from scratch. And
unless he goes to like the Chargers.
But he's still, in his mind, I feel like he's still going to think I still have to get my program.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think he has any interest in going somewhere else.
It just seems like a lot.
Yeah,
but I think he would if he got fired. I think he would. I don't think he wants to, but I think he would.
Matt says from Newport Beach that the free version of ChatGPT only goes up to 2021, so that would explain why no Evan. Somebody did a ChatGPT of who are all the hosts, what are they like, and
it's pretty good.
It didn't have you in there, but that would explain it.
Yeah,
it goes up.
You could ask him who Clintus's Evan Lazar is.
That's true.
Yeah,
talk.
You almost did it again. That was almost 2 S-bombs.
Caught myself that
time. So a lot of good emails. Let's get to the phones. Matthew's in New Mexico. What's up, Matthew? Matt, what is he mowing the lawn? What, Matthew?
Morse code.
Beep, 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 beep. Matthew, New Mexico.
He's near Los
Come in, New
Alamos.
Mexico.
That sounds like when Will was little, and I used to go out and cut the grass, and he would be behind me with this little
fake lower,
with the bubble mower.
Let's listen.
Sounds like Oppenheimer from New Mexico. I'm worried.
Did you see that?
What do you think he's doing?
No, not yet.
What do you think Matt's doing?
I didn't want to.
Oh no, that's line 3.
just a
That's
bad
not
connection.
Matt. That's line 3.
That's not.
That's the.
We had no problem with line 3 when Hardy was taking the calls.
Is that right?
He did amazing.
Well, maybe it's the.
ChatGPT says, "I'm sorry, I couldn't find any specific information about an individual named Evan Lazar from Clintus."
Thank you, thank you.
Wow, have you been scrubbed off the internet?
Yes. Never had jury duty. Been scrubbed off the internet.
Jeff's in Texas.
Never had
Hey,
one
Jeff.
lesson.
Hey, hi guys.
Hey, Jeff.
I have a question and a comment about Fred. You were talking about the operating budget, and of course, like you said, nobody really knows exactly. But so my question is, like, I know the Cowboys are like the richest team. Aren't the Patriots like second or third behind them?
I believe they're third.
In terms of value.
Worth. Yes.
But
Yeah,
see,
in terms of
that's
value.
different.
Okay, well, so my question is, like, remember during the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes, and we're all disappointed because we didn't get him. But and then I believe it was after that Kraft came out and said, I don't remember the exact words, but he said something like, "I've always given Bill everything he asked for." Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, and
Yeah,
I
he
mentioned
did.
that quote. And,
Yeah, he did
But
say
the thing
something
that we
like
leave
that.
out is everything he asked for. ... Did he mean within the budget? Like, we don't know.
Well, that's a good question. And then to further that point, I'm just wondering, like, two other points to that is, like, one, do you think that between Kraft and Belichick there was some fallout discussions about, overpaying for Jonnu Smith and Aguilar, and that they were kind of a bust as far as, the budget?
Well, I think at that year the Patriots had a lot of cash. They had a lot of available money, and I don't think that was necessarily over budget. Because remember, a lot of teams, because of COVID, they reduced the salary cap, and a lot of teams were in a bind. So the Patriots were like one of the few buyers that season.
Yeah, but they still set a record for money spent.
For the Patriots?
No, for the NFL.
history.
For the NFL?
For a free agent class.
But
yeah. but it wasn't the same.
No, it was. I hear what you're saying, but to Jeff's point, right, Jeff? Right, I think that he's right in asking that question. I do think that there was obviously buyer's remorse on some of the players from that 21 free agency class, and I don't think that they're necessarily inclined to just open up the checkbook again for $100 million in salary caps.
No, but I think my point is on that year, I think Robert Kraft was all in just as much. I think he was.
I don't disagree.
I think he was all in.
But
I don't think they had to twist his arm to do that.
No, I think he desperately wanted to do it. It was coming off of Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
He was all in. Absolutely. That's why they paid all that money. So I don't think they would do that again.
So if there's buyer's remorse, it's everybody.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, what Paul just said, I'm inclined to think that they wouldn't do that again. Because every single time we've spoken to Mr. Kraft since, he's mentioned about building through the draft and how you can't, he said it at the time that teams that spend like that in free agency, it doesn't work. Like, it's not a long-term plan.
See, I would hope though if they, but if the
he didn't try to spend more to get DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I think that DeAndre Hopkins isn't a Patriot because of Bill Belichick, not because of Robert Kraft.
Yeah,
I honestly do. I think you're telling me that he wouldn't have wanted. You could give him $8 million, but not $12 million. That was the. Now, if you want to tell me he was looking for $100 million, that's something Robert Kraft's got to sign off on. But I don't think the difference between a couple of million for a short-term deal was the deal breaker. To your point, Fred, we don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just my feeling. My feeling is Bill didn't want to go any higher for him because I think he felt like the salary structure of the wide receiver class on this team right now would have been affected by someone that you're bringing in from the outside.
By someone better.
And he doesn't like to do that.
Yeah. Despite what Robert Kraft said, I would hope that if the opportunity arises again where they can get 2 or 3 guys in a particular free agent class, and reasonably, I know this was the most ever spent, but it was reasonable at that time.
I think they'll add some players.
I think they should.
I don't think a lot of those contracts were reasonable.
They shouldn't. They shouldn't. The buyer's remorse aside, they shouldn't. That shouldn't stop them from doing it again.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have $100 million in cap space going into next year.
I mean,
so they're going to have that.
But I don't think they're spending $275 million of real money. I'll tell you that. That's what they spent that time.
I just wonder, and this is. And nowadays, and maybe T. Higgins will end up being an exception just because of the situation. But now, in order to acquire like players like that, you have to trade for them. Like teams aren't just letting those guys get to free agency anymore. So maybe it won't be spent the exact same way. I think the problem with the 21 experiment was they only shopped in free agency. So they were working in a pool of players that were available for nothing at the time.
Right.
And that when you get to free agency, you're talking about a certain tier of player. Like if you're not letting guys like T. Higgins most of the time, he doesn't hit free agency. Like A.J. Brown didn't hit free agency. Tyreek Hill wasn't a free agent. They traded for him.
Right.
Because the teams want something for him.
No, that's a fair point.
So if they're going to spend like crazy again next offseason, I feel like it's going to have to be done differently.
Yeah, the great ones don't get to free agency.
Right. And just because they didn't have one of those sort of blockbuster, 6-year, $120 million contracts, they had at least 2, if not 3 guys specifically answer the question, why the Patriots? Because they offered me the most money.
That year,
Kendrick.
yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think Aguilar did too,
Judon.
and I want to say Judon.
But I don't think it was a strong market. It wasn't.
No. But they were the only one. But that doesn't mean they got these guys cheap.
No,
is my point.
I know.
Like they spent a lot of money on those guys. It wasn't like every guy they like. Jalen Mills was a to me an outrageous contract. It doesn't have to be an $80 million guarantee for it to be an overpay.
But didn't it seem easy? Like they just signed these guys easily.
Well,
Like
the one that really stood out was they signed Jonnu Smith, and then like 4 days later they signed Hunter Henry.
I think it was like a day later.
And you're like, how are they getting both of these
remember
guys?
we had to have
because they're paying more money than anybody else was offering for these guys. That's why
we had to have an emergency Patriots Unfiltered because
we had a
these
handful
guys
of
were
those.
coming in like,
oh my gosh,
I can't believe it.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But that's like Hunter Henry, Jalen Mills. Those are a certain skill level.
Sure.
And like I just feel like that's what you got to learn from that free agency class. Is really the only guy that moved the needle was Judon. And he was, I think, an exception because of things going on in Baltimore that he ended up being kind of the odd man out in their roster. But that's the exception of the rule. Like most of the time, it's the other guys.
If you feel like, and maybe you don't, I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but if you feel like they overpaid for some of those free agents, can you imagine what they'd have to pay T. Higgins?
Yeah.
Who everyone else is going to want too.
Right. And I think that's like part of the lesson though, is that don't try to carpet bomb, like go specific and just get the Judon, or you know what I mean, and fill those other holes in. It's just I think there's such a talent void right now that's like we need studs.
Well,
we need guys who can play, not a bunch of B players who are going to make us a solid team in theory.
But it is, I mean, remember when it happened, Paul, we sat on this show and said, okay, they signed all these guys. The odds are they're not all going to work out.
No.
It never works that way.
Right. And I mean, at the time, I liked what they did. I liked that they were all young players, kind of coming off their first deals. It wasn't, old guys that they were spending. I mean, it seemed like they understood where they were as a team at that point, and I don't know where they would have been without a lot of those contributions, specifically, Judon and Henry at the top of the list. I'm sure they'd probably put Godchaw on there too, but. I
wouldn't.
I don't. I said they would, but we'll see what they do. They do this year. I just think when you look at the free agents that are out there, it's a lot of that kind of stuff. It's those like B guys. There's nobody out there. You're like, oh man, we just signed this guy and this guy and this guy free agency. Like we're good. We're starting. It's hard. It's hard to even play like fantasy like that.
But that's why I would say, back to the point about keeping some of the guys that they have coming up. It's like those are B level guys.
Yeah.
So if you keep the B level guys that you have in house and then stack A level guys on top of the B level guys, well, now we're talking.
Now you have a nucleus,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you the problem is that they had so many holes in 2021 that they, like you said, they carpet bombed it because they had so many holes on the roster to fill. But if you retain some of the younger guys that you actually like that are currently on your team, well, then maybe you won't have as many holes to plug. So if you add T. Higgins on top of what's already exists on this roster currently, like you're not missing all these pieces. But if you don't re-sign Mike Onwenu, now you need another starting lineman, and if you don't re-sign Kyle Duggar, now you probably need a safety, and if you don't re-sign Josh Uche, or Jennings, then you probably need edge guys, and it just adds this like whole different thing.
Do you guys worry at all that those three don't want to sign back here? Like that they just would say, you know what, this is because I think they've all had specific situations where you could maybe say, maybe Onwenu he wants to be a guard and he doesn't really want to move around, and Duggar, I'm not sure, he seems like a pretty good fit, but Uche, maybe he's looking for a bigger role. Like I can see reasons why those guys wouldn't necessarily be immediately slam dunks to come back just from their end too.
Yeah, I think
who's better, Uche or Chandler Jones?
Chandler Jones
when he was here. Yeah,
Chandler Jones was at least an every down player.
Yeah.
Now I don't think he was a great run player either. I don't want to be a fraud, but he played every down.
Yeah.
Chandler Jones
made more of an impact in the past.
Spee says, speaking of not rewatching losses, it's interesting that one of the least often discussed great Brady games is his extraordinary performance throwing for over 500 yards against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I hate that his incredible work that day is kind of buried in my mind. Can you think of other awesome performances we avoid thinking about because they were part of a losing effort?
No, because
we forget about it. Right.
That's a good game, though. I don't think I've really looked at that game at all. That one was really annoying to lose.
That game is weird for me as a sort of a Brady apologist. I know the numbers, and I know what I don't think he was. I don't think he was as good as the numbers that day. I've seen him better. And I know that sounds silly because he's so good and he won so many games. I thought they had some, not that Brady did anything wrong, because I don't think he did, but I thought some of the production in that day was like really kind of accidental.
I can't comment on. I've forgotten it.
I'm not sure about accidental.
I don't know what the right word is.
I think that there was a lot of schemed up passes.
He had like two punts down the sideline to Amendola, who was like uncovered, and they were like running around, and they just kind of like lost them. Like I've seen Brady just surgically tear people apart and lose
51. Like San Francisco 2012, I felt like they were down, they came back, they lost, but it was another one of those games that was almost a crazy comeback.
Like I even think, statistically, I mean, 517 yards is what it is. It's a record, But I just don't think that he was. I've seen him better. Even like the 06 AFC Championship game in Indy. I thought he was, considering that team, that he just like put that team on his back and beat the Chargers the week before, and then he comes back and was within, a minute or so of beating the Colts. That was an amazing performance.
Yeah, I don't remember.
In a loss.
I don't remember who the defensive coordinator was for the Eagles in that Super Bowl, but it seemed like a lot of the yards in that Super Bowl were schemed. Like they just had guys that were wide open, like just Chris Hogan invisibility cloak type stuff. Like he had over 100 yards in that game, and not to take anything away from Brady.
Yeah,
but
it's not that he did anything wrong.
Yeah.
You guys are so careful not to say
No, because I just
I still believe if Brady had won that game, he would have retired.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
I do. No. I think that's what.
Well, why didn't he retire after 18 then?
Well, because
or 20.
Because there were other factors.
Like he went.
There were other factors that he wanted to prove things. But I think
TV show.
I think he had that documentary all set to wave goodbye, go out on top.
Well,
and that scuttled his plans.
He must be glad he didn't.
Almost did you, right there.
Scuttled.
Joel says, as always, thanks for everything you do for us fans. This is going to be real quick. Seeing Paul calmly turn his back on the camera so he can finish his food is one of the best things about having video.
Paul.
I was throwing it away. The barrel's right there, guy.
Last bite.
Oh, it's Fred. It was Fred's food.
Got to get that last one down.
That is good, Joel. That's really good.
Let's see.
That's something I would do to somebody. That's why I like it.
Nice job.
Nice job.
Balvin, what you all were explaining is what an emailer said as well as Hardy. The Patriots have no real dogs, just a bunch of felines. Brady ramping up everyone else is dog mentality. Now it just seems like guys are just happy to be there. The only two players I see that are dogs are Tavai and Deuce's guy, Bentley. The Patriots aren't only missing talent guys.
I think he meant Peppers.
But Bentley qualifies.
The Patriots aren't only missing talent guys, but that wrong or right, they've got each other's back, and right now it's all individual. So I don't know. I think Judon is a guy that's supporting his teammates.
I don't necessarily agree that it's all individual. I just don't think that they have a lot of talent on the roster. Like I don't go like I'm not the little bit that we get to be around these guys. I don't think that they are all in it for themselves and hate each other, and I don't get that vibe. I just think that they just don't have a lot of talent, especially on offense.
Yep. Lots of emails. Let's see, Trevor, following up on the rant about Bill's philosophy for team building, I disagree that Bill doesn't want to build a high-powered offense. Since 2018, Bill has drafted Nikhil, traded for Sanu, signed the best tight ends available, drafted Taekwon High. All of those moves except Hunter Henry have failed, which is an evaluation problem, not a philosophy problem.
But the philosophy...
it's all in the same.
Yeah,
it's all in one.
Yeah, and I also would just say that all these teams did all that and then kept doing it. Like the Eagles drafted Jalen Reagor in the first round, and he was a N'Keal Harry level bust. So what did they do the next year? They drafted Devontae Smith in the first round.
Right.
They kept trying. You know?
It's like with tight ends over the years. They kept drafting tight ends until they got Gronk. They didn't stop. But I think Bill deserves a chance to reset again. The only argument, in my opinion, for replacing Bill is if you want to pair your new young quarterback with a long-term coach. That's kind of my argument, if we get a new one.
Wouldn't you just love to hear Bill, candidly explain what's gone wrong here? Candidly, just really what's going on?
I think it'd be
I don't-
fascinating.
I don't think you'd like any of the answers. I really don't.
Like, well, I don't know. Why would
That guy's not as good.
like him or
that
not?
guy's not good. That guy doesn't do what he's supposed to do. That's what I think.
But these are all your guys.
No,
that's
what
what I
I
mean.
think.
Like a candid.
If they
That's
just
what I'm
executed, if they just executed, we'd be fine.
Well,
He's getting
you picked
ready.
him. Why did you pick guys that can't execute?
Because he's
your plan?
getting ready for Washington, Deuce. He's not. It's not his job.
I thought N'Keal
Jack
Harry
wants
was
to know:
really
is T. Higgins that good, or is Jamar Chase always being doubled?
I think T. Higgins is pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm not.
this is probably not the day for this, but like the notion that like every like good receiver gets doubled on every single play just is whatever. It's whatever.
Alex wants.
I
to
mean,
know,
I would say they have a good offense. They have a lot of options, and maybe he's not quite as good if he was the only option. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think
He's a big dude.
But
He's
I think T.
athletic.
Higgins is
Yeah.
pretty good.
I also would just say, like, if T. Higgins is your number one guy, then that makes Pop Douglas's life easier. That makes Kendrick Bourne, if he's here, life easier. The tight ends. So then the coverage just becomes tilted to T. Higgins, and then they have, that makes it just the way that Jamar Chase tilts the coverage in Cincinnati.
Alex and Warren, I don't have a chance to listen live, so forgive me if you talked about this already. I was wondering if you guys think that Mapu has a chance to play some off-the-ball linebacker this week, and moving forward, if Bentley does miss some time. It would be great to see him at his natural position instead of asking him to play deep safety against the most explosive receiver in the NFL. I just hope that the blown coverage on Sunday doesn't lead him to the bench and maybe leads to a shift in his usage.
I think it's possible because you've got Mac Wilson playing a little more of an edge role now too. So I mean, they if it's Tavai kind of taking over of Bentley's role, I could see maybe Mapu getting in there. I'd love it, but I don't know. I've kind of tempered my expectations with him. Unfortunately, it's been a tough.
I just
go.
haven't seen much of him at linebacker.
Yeah.
Nope.
Didn't you make a comment yesterday about Brian Belichick saying he's been in this safety? Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
The days all blend together.
He's a safety, much to my chagrin.
But I would like that, emailer. I would like to see him. No, because I think that was like an indication that, maybe he is trying to do some things that are a little different from his philosophy. Bill being, we're going to have a 218-pound linebacker coming out of college, and we know that's much smaller than we normally have, but he's athletic, and he might be able to do some things that are different, but we haven't really seen him given the opportunity to
I
do
kick
that.
myself for not bringing this up earlier, but what did you think of Bill O'Brien's comments that he's not involved in like the game day,
That's another thing that troubles
activation?
Yeah, I hate it. And not even that. He said he wasn't involved in the trade deadline either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so he's the offensive coordinator, and Malik Cunningham is going to be part of the offensive game plan that week, and he didn't have any say in it?
Right.
That bugs me.
Yeah, that did. I want to mention...
Not that he said it, that it is.
Do you think that maybe, I know we were running out of time, but do you think that he maybe said that to remove himself from the mess?
Maybe he's doing the same thing that Belichick's doing.
Yeah, but if that's not true,
I'm employee number OC.
I don't know. That's just kind of the trade, because he got asked the same question, but about the trade deadline. We know that you didn't make, that was a Matt Bill decision about Cunningham. What are you involved at all in the trade deadline? And I'm like... If Bill O'Brien, they should be going to Bill O'Brien and saying, "Hey, what do you need? Like, what is it that's missing from this offense? What do you feel that you need?" And he could give them an answer. If they're not doing that, then that's malpractice. I mean, you got to be doing that. And he just kind of, I have to wonder if maybe he's like, "Hey, this is the personnel side of it, ain't me." Like
everybody's like,
yeah, but to me, like who plays on game day on offense is part of his job.
Oh yeah, there should be a meeting about
Right,
that. Like,
yeah.
so what are we doing this week? What do you think?
Is it on the calendar? Like,
hey,
we can do it for your WebEx if you want.
Hey, Bill O'Brien, we're gonna be not playing Mac today. Okay, well,
just tell me who's playing
I don't have
before we get on
anything
the
to do
field.
with that, so I just don't buy that. But coming up is John Rook with the playbook, and we'll be back tomorrow. But I just want to mention that next week is Germany, so I just want to, for people's planning purposes, we will not have a show on Tuesday and Wednesday because we're going to be scrambling. Lots of us will be traveling on Tuesday.
But you will receive total consciousness.
But we will have shows our normal time on Thursday, live from Germany, and also on Friday.
Special Friday
live
edition.
from Germany. So
12 to 2.
Next week, shows Thursday and Friday, 12 to 2 East Coast time.
Yeah, Eastern.
Yeah,
same time as usual.
It'll be 6 in the evening where we are, but for everybody else that's in the East Coast, it'll be noon.
And Catch 22, same thing as well.
Yeah.
So 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
Same time. So just no shows Tuesday, Wednesday, but there will be shows Thursday, Friday.
They'll
next
probably
week.
be pretty fun too and different.
Yeah.
We're going to be like The
Why is
Patriots
it- why is-
house.
why is that, Deuce?
And the bars. Is there a bar? Is that what we're doing?
Are
The
we-
club. It's like a
is
club.
this true?
Gibson's, yeah.
Gibson's
Is
is
this
the club.
Can
What?
we?
Yeah.
Is he?
I didn't say. I
What?
didn't say anything.
What's true? What?
Because fans have always wanted to see what it's like when Paulie has a few in them.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, we can't do that.
Afterwards.
We're on the internet.
You can do it after.
It's an internet show. Come on.
All right.
I think that's a no.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Playbook coming up. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original